Welcome to the fastest daf in town today. L'masechtas Rosh Hashana daf Zion. We are going to begin on the top of Zion Amud Aleph, the second line from the top. We concluded in yesterday's daf that when it comes to a bechor, which should ideally be eaten within its first year, we said it depended on when we counted whether it was a tam, in which it was the time in which it was able to be brought as a carbon, which is 8 days, or a balmum, in which one is able to start counting from the time it's born. Tanubava. The Echad b'Nisan, regarding the first day of the month of Nisan, is Rosh Hashana for many things. The Chadashim, as we'll discuss exactly what that means, the counting of the months of the year, with Iburin for leap years, with Trumas Shkolim, as well as the donations of Shkolim to the Beis HaMikdash. All these are going to be discussed in today's daf. Also with regard to rental contracts. So again, this will all be explained. Now, so how do we know, first of all, that we start regarding the months, the first month is the month of Nisan. So how do we know that that's the case? Pretty clear pasuk that says when the Bnei Israel and Parshas Bo were leaving Mitzrayim, this very first mitzvah of sanctifying the new month, which was in the month of Nisan. Dabril kol adas Yisrael lemor be'esel chodesh hazel, the 10th of this month, ve'yichol lehem ish sel lebeis abos halabayis, that they would take the sheep on the 10th of Nisan, v'hoy lechem lemishmeres ad arba aser yom lechodesh hazeh, and they would have to guard it for until the 14th, which now we know is Erev Pesach. V'shachto, so that's when the shechit took place. Uksiv, shomer sachodesh aviv, protect and guard this month, which is the season of spring. So eza chodesh sheshbo aviv, so which month has spring? So haviyomer ze Nisan, dekari le Rishon. So this is referring to the holiday, or the month rather, of Nisan, which therefore it's Rishon. It's the first. So the Ema Iyar, how do we know this is the month of Nisan? Maybe it's the month of Iyar. So the Ena Ovid, we need for it to be like the beginning of spring, the lake of the Ema Adar. So Iyar is still it's already warmer, so therefore it doesn't count. Says Rashi, Shikvar Nigmra Nisan, because it was already completed from Nisan. V'ika Zara afela in zebachir el apil. This is like older grains. Ve'em adar be'ina roiv avivaleka. So you need to have the majority of the grains already flourishing, and that doesn't take place in the month of Adar. So midi rov aviv ksiv. It doesn't say rov, it just says aviv. El omer rav chisda mehacha. A different pasuk. Ach b'chamishaser yom chodesh hashvi. It will be on the 15th day of the 7th month, bi'asbechem es tibos aretz, when you gather up your grains. So eza chodesh sheish bo asifa. What is the month where we are engaged in the in-gathering, which is of course talking during Sukkot? Havi armin zet tishrei, v'kar karli shvi. And therefore, if Tishrei is the 7th, so that must mean that Nisan is the 1st. So the ema mar cheshvan, umay shvi l'ir. Maybe it's the 7th month from Ir. Being asiv aleka, again, it needs to be a time of gathering, but it's already gathered in a month later. That's already too late. Ne'ema el, umay shvi other. So being a rov asiv aleka. So midi rov asiv ksiv. So it's the same logic, but not talking about the springtime when they are engaged in the gathering of the tavua, but the in-gathering here. El omer avina davar ze mataris Moshe Rabbeinu l'manu. This is actually not something which can be clearly derived from the psukim and the Torah, but rather Medivri Kabbalah Manu. There's numerous psukim in Nach that support this. So how do we see this? First of all, in Sefer Zechariah, Biyom Esrim B'Arba, on the 24th day, La'ashti Asar, on the 10th month, Chodesh Hu Chodesh Shvat. So if you have Shvat is the Ashtei Asar, is the 11th month rather. So if you have Shvat, then the 12th month is last month of Adar, and then of course you have the first month. Therefore, is a rise Nisan. Rabba bar Ulam Mahacha. You can see it from Megillas Esther. We actually have a few psukim from Esther. V'tilokach Esther el hamelech Achashverosh el beis malchuso. That Esther went to the Melech to be tested to see if she should be the queen. When was that? The coldest day of the year, basically. B'chodesh Asiri hu chodesh Teves. On the 10th day of the 10th month. B'chodesh Hasiri hu chodesh Teves. On the month of Teves, which it just says here clearly it was just on the 10th month. So the 10th month is Teves. Shvat is 11, others 12, Nisan is 1. Rav Kahana Omer Mahacha, Ba'arbul Chodesh Hatshi B'Kislev. It says that the 9th month was the month of Kislev. Again, if Kislev is number 9, Teves is 10, Shvat is 11, Adar is 12, then Nisan is 1. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Omer Mahacha, again from Megillas Esther, just a little later on. V'yikar'u Sofer HaMelech Beis Ahiu B'Chodesh HaShlishi Hu Chodesh Sivan. So it says that they wrote letters, and it was in the 3rd month, which was Sivan. So you have Nisan, Iyar, Sivan. Rav Ashi Omer Mahacha, also from Megillah Hippopur, Hu Hagar Lifnei Haman, Miyom Michodesh HaChodesh, Shnei Maser Hu Chodesh Adar. He wrote it on the 12th month, which was the month of Adar. So again, obviously, if that's the 12th month, the next month, number 1 is Nisan. The Ibo Sema Mahacha, you can say it from here, B'chodesh Harishon Hu Chodesh Nisan, which sounds pretty clear. It says also with regard to Haman, in the 1st month was the month of Nisan. So V'kuhu my time Amri Mahacha, Mahai. Why do you have to learn out from all the other months and then count backwards or forwards? This says clearly that the 1st month was Nisan. So Dilma, my Rishon Lemilte. Maybe it just means it was the first of his work, namely of Haman's plan to harm the Jews. But it's not necessarily, in general, come to tell you that Nisan is the first. But again, all these psukim show us that Rosh Hashana L'Chadashim is the month of Nisan. Fine. B'tana Didan B'shanim Kamari B'Chadashim Lo Kamari. Our Tan of our Mishnah only wants to mention Shanim and not Chadashim. He only wants to mention things that are years and not months. Okay, that's the reason why that based on the Tana of our Mishnah. Okay, let me see if Rashi explains this a little bit. Sheish B'Asifa. V'tani didan delo tana b'masnis the Rosh Hashana l'chadashim. Our Mishnah does not mention anything that's a Rosh Hashana for months. So he says because b'shanim kamairi, b'chadashim lo kamairi. Okay. So let's continue. Le'iburin. So these are additions beyond what's written in our Mishnah of shanim, malachim. So it's also chadashim. It doesn't want to mention months. Iburin, leap years. Liburin, Nisan, Meninon. Is it true that we start figuring this out from Nisan? Vosanya, Ein Mavrin Hashon Lifnei Rosh Hashanah. You're not allowed to be Mavr Hashana in front of, before Rosh Hashanah. Since it's so far back from Adar, people will forget. So that's the reason why it's got to be by Nisan. V'im Iburoha in Muberes. That's not going to work. Sometimes after Rosh Hashanah we will allow it. Miyad v'afal in Mavrin el Adar. The truth is we only do in the month of Adar, but you don't do in the month of Nisan. In fact, the Gemara discusses elsewhere that when a person who would make the decision of adding an extra month in the month of Nisan is too late and it's wrong. So how can we say that it's on Rosh Chodesh or the first day of Nisan? It's not true. That's too late. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak, my iburin hafsakas iburin. Exactly what it means. That you have up until that point. That's the cutoff date. Says Rashi, Shkivan shekichu es hachodesh l'shem Nisan paska shana she'avra m'liyos muberes od shein rishoyin lasos Nisan adar shkvar nichnas hashana acheres le'inyan ibur. Once you said and designated and declared this is now the first day of Nisan, then it is too late. Ditnan, hein idu shemabrin Hashana kol adar. You can do this all year. Shahayu oimrim ad Purim. Some say you have only until Purim. So my time, demande oimer ad Purim. Kivan de oimer mar shoalim hilchos Pesach kodim Pesach shashim yoim. Because Purim is actually when you're supposed to start learning hilchos Pesach, because you're supposed to learn 30 days before. So if, let's say, you celebrate Purim, and then all of a sudden you decide to add. So asal zuzli b'chametz, a person is going to end up having problems with chametz because they're going to end up miscalculating, because they're going to think the date is based on the 30 days from Purim. Says Rashi, kvar min Purim be'ela cheschilu hadarshanim lindrosh barabim hilchos Pesach. Everyone's learning it. So husku hashayimim lasos Pesach l'soif lamed yoim. So Pesach is going to be after 30 days. The Yabru based in as Hashana, if let's say they push off the month, making another Adar, it's going to be a problem, because people are going to start it's okay to celebrate in nadi chametz, even though it's not Pesach, but the problem is that time is going to lapse, and then you're going to think Pesach is over, you're going to be eating chametz on Pesach. The idach mediyadi, people know the shata me'abarta b'chushbana talya milsa mesabi chushbana hu deloy salvik v'hu rabbanan ada idna. So they're not going to make this mistake, because they realize that the rabbanan have a little bit longer to be able to make this decision, and therefore they're not going to end up making a mistake of possibly eating chametz. But Tani Didan, why does our Mishnah mention this? Baschalta kamari b'afsakalo kamari. He wants to mention when things start, not when things end. Utrumas shkolim. So also the giving the shkolim is to the month of Nisan. Minon. So Rabbi Yishai, and we had this great discussion, obviously, in the Sekta Shkolim, not too long back. Omer Kra, Zosos Chodesh B'Chadsho, and it says L'Chadshi Hashana. So Omer Torah, Chadish V'Havei carbon, you should bring a new carbon Mitruma Chadasha from the new monies. V'Gamri Shana Shana Nisan. And we learn out Gzer Shava Shana Shana from Nisan, the month of Nisan. Nechseva Rishan Hu Lachem L'Chadshi Hashana. I believe Shana Shana Mitishrei. Nechsev Merashis Hashana. So maybe the drasha should be start giving from in the month of Tishrei. No, done in Shana Sheish Ima Chadashim, Mishana Sheish Ima Chadashim. Being done in Shana Sheish Ima Chadashim, Mishana Shein Ima Chadashim. Because one pasuk says L'Chadshi Hashana, and this other one says L'Chadshi Hashana, as opposed to where it just says the word Shana. So therefore, we'd rather learn the Gzer Shava are words in which there's more of a connection to them. Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Karbonos Sibor Haboyin Be'echa B'Nisan. When it comes to Karbonos Sibor that are brought on the first of Nisan, Mitzvah Havi Min HaChalash. You should bring from the new coins. If you took from the old coins, you still fulfilled your obligation, but you're missing out in the performance of the mitzvah. Tanya Hachi. Karbonos Sibor Haboyin Be'echa B'Nisan Mitzvah Havi Min HaChalash. V'im Hevi Min HaYashin Yatsa El Shechisa Mitzvah. Last line. The Yachid, an individual, Shehis Nadev Mishaloi, that he gives from his own, Ksherin Bilvad Sheyimsrim L'Tzibor. He has to make sure that it's given over to the Tzibor. Pshita. That seems to be an obvious point. So in this, the Gemara says, Madatema Leicha Shema, maybe we will be concerned as we continue to Zion Amid Beis. Shema Lo Yimsrim L'Tzibor Yafe Yafe. Maybe he will not give it with his whole heart. Kamash Malan, that we say it's okay. Because it says that if you didn't do it, you still yatsa, so we don't want to mention this in our Mishnah. Also when it comes to rental contracts. Tanobanim. Hamaskir buys a chaver l'shana, but you rent your house out to your friend for the duration of an entire year, Monish Neimas or Chodesh Miyom Liyom, then it's for 12 months from that day to day. So if it's from October 20th, it'll be October 20th the following year. Dim Omer was Shana Zu, but if you stipulated for this year, then afilu omad ela be'echad ba'adar kivan shehigi yom echad b'nisan also lo shana. Then it will be considered to be like an entire year. It just means this year, which will end at the end of Adar. The month of Nisan is a new year, and therefore the house is only for that month. Now, why don't we just say one day? Why do we say 1 month? Shani hacha, when it comes to houses, the person's not going to rent out his house for less than 30 days. Not going to rent out a house for a day. Okay. The Ema Tishrei. So how do we know that this is the month of Nisan? Maybe it's Tishrei. Stam, logically, it's in the spring. Because Kiyarga Inish Beis, so when do you rent out your house? In the time when it's already rented out during the cold season, right? So and that's usually when houses are usually more available in the spring and the summertime, is when there's a higher inventory of houses for sale or for rent. So it makes sense that Nisan is the time in the spring as opposed to in the winter time where a person already wants to be settled in their house. Tanikama de Braisa, the Tani Didan Benisa Nami Mishkach Shchiach Kitre. Says also when it comes to these other months, like months of Nisan, we find that it could be cloudy and it could be rainy. So therefore, because of that, that's almost also like Kimos like Geshamin. So it's not so clear that a person would necessarily want to say that that is the time. So we learned in our Mishnah. Actually, let's just see a question over here before we get too far ahead of ourselves. TB21, TB22. Minolan she'ein mavrin el Adar. How do we know this? So that it's in the month of Adar. Dechsiv shemer sechodesh aviv. Avar sechodesh hasamach aviv k'nei shiyavu aviv bizmanoi. That you should bring. It should take place in the month of Nisan, in which k'nei shiyavu aviv bizmanoi, so that the harvesting and everything should take place in its proper time. Okay. That's actually a quote from Rashi. Okay, let's move on. So this is actually a quote from our Mishnah that the Rosh Hashana for Ma'aseh Behema, every animal goes through a corral, and the 10th one is Ma'aseh Behema. But it has to be that those animals were from the same year. They cannot commingle one year to the other year. So we said that the cutoff point is Elul. So Mani, Ramer he Tisanya Titnan Ramer Oimer Be'echa Be'el Rosh Hashana L'Ma'aseh Behema. According to Ramer, that is the time. Therefore, that's what our Mishnah is talking about, the Shita Ramer. The Regalim Mani, when it comes to the Regalim, it's Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon who says, as if you look at Rashi, Da Aliba Okimna the Isle Kisidron Lobal Ta'acher. So it has to be Kisidron, which we said is Nisan, Pesach, which is Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So Ema Seifa, Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon, Oimrim Be'echa B'Tishrei. So then it mentions Rav Shimon. So that means Reisha V'Seif is Rav Shimon and Metzias Rav Meir. It's hard to understand. The Reisha about the Regalim is Rav Shimon. And then you have Rav Meir quoted about the first of Elul, is for Rosh Hashana L'Ma'aseh Behema. And then you have this Machlokas, because according to Rav Shimon, he holds that it's the first of Tishrei, not the first of Elul. So Rav Yosef Rebbehi, but Natziv Leili, but the Tanoi. It's actually like Rebbe, and he holds he splits his opinions. Regalim Sevlik Rav Shimon, but Ma'aseh Behema Sevlik Rav Meir. So our Mishnah is actually, it's not Rav Shimon speaking or Rav Meir speaking, it's Rebbe, Rebbe Huda Nasi, and he holds these different opinions. Yahachi Arba Chamisha Havi. According to this, there's really 5 holidays. There's 5 times, because in addition to there being a Rosh Hashana, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we're now saying there's also another one, which is the 15th of Nisan, when it comes to the Regalim. So how do we understand this? Fine. So let's look at Rashi. Ihachi The Chad Gabra Amrin and the Masnisin that are this one person, so Chamisha Rosh Hashanah, there's 5. Echad ben Nisan, Tesvav ben Nisan, Echad be'Elul, Echad be'Tishrei, V'Tesvav b'Shvat. So we have that there's actually 5 different possibilities, because according to Rabbi, he'll actually be of the opinion that the Regalim is on the 15th, which is Pesach time. So really it should be a 5th. So Amarava Arba L'Divrei Koil. It's actually 4 according to everyone. That's what the Mishnah means. Or Meir Arba Bal Dal Regalim, or Shimon Arba Dal Meiser Behema. So you can either remove Regalim or Meiser Behema, but everyone holds just 4. But if you put them all together, you're right, there would be 5. It says Rashi, or Meir to Islay Echad Be'Elul Dal Regalim Hilri Duidide Beregel Echad Oiber Babal Ta'acher. Fine. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Omer Arba Chadashim. There's actually 4 months. Ubehen Kama Rosh Hashanim. It means that there's 4 months. Nisan, yeah, it could be there's the 1st, the 15th, but the point is it's 1 month, and therefore there's 4 months, which is mentioned in our Mishnah. Okay. Mesei. Shisha Asar Nisan, the 16th of Nisan, Rosh Hashanah Omer, which we know that's when the mincha, the Omer offering of barley is brought. Shisha b'Sivan on Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah l'Shtei Alechem. The wheat offerings of the Shtei Alechem are brought. L'Rava l'Shtei Lisnei Shisha, Rav Nachbar Yitzchak Lisnei Chamisha. The question is, why aren't these mentioned? And again, okay, fine. You have the month of Sivan. That's a totally different month. Nisan, fine, is one of the months. So you can just say it's another one of the 4 months. But still, you still have Sivan. So Amar Papa Kika Chashiv Midi de Chayil Ma'urta. Midi de Chayil Ma'urta Luka Chashiv. He only wants to mention things that start at night. However, when it comes to the bringing of the Shtei Lechem and the Omer, that was done in the day. So Midi de Chayil Ma'urta Luka Chashiv. That's why the Shtei Lechem and the Omer were not mentioned. When it comes to the Regalim, also it's not something which takes place at night, and it's mentioned. Says Rashi, it's not at night, because it has to be a time when you can bring karbanos. The ein zos ad sheyakriv tamid shel shachar. She'en carbon koydem lo. You can't bring anything before the tamid shel shachar. You can't bring a carbon in the middle of the night, right? Going to the first wide line, Mechai v'oimed mishash another v'hoylul hakrivu me'erev haregel. Okay, so you can see that some people skip the next 2 words of kivan shesarach v'yisui mikar mechayev v'koi, but it's coming to include things that you already were mechayev. V'hari yovel still chayil mi'orta v'kachashiv. How when it comes to yovel, it's not chayil from it. It's not chayil at night, and it's mentioned. That actually, Yovel's chayil even from Rosh Hashana itself. Says Rashi, "V'har Yovel los the Katani Rosh Hashanim the Masnisin the chayil el al yedei tekiyah shofar." It's only at the time of the tekiyah shofar. This is saying no, it's not totally in the tekiyah. Rather, actually, it's from the night time. That's when Yovel applies at night. It's not by the tekiyah. So therefore, that's not a question by Yovel. Actually, our Mishnah only mentions things that just happen. There's no action, nothing takes place, nonetheless it happens. Things that require an action, like the bringing of the Omer, the Shtei Lechem, that he doesn't want to mention. When it comes to the Regalim, it's bringing a carbon. It mentions it. Actually, it's the opposite. It's talking about not the action of bringing it, it's the violation of Bal Ta'achar by not bringing it. So therefore, it actually fits well. Chesed Aleph. I Bahari Yovolos, says Rashi again, Shehi Tuli B'Tekiyah. You have to blow the shofar. So again, Rabbi Shmuel B'Noisho, Rabbi Yochanan Ben Broikehi, which as we said before, It's not totally on the shofar. It just happens immediately, so it's without a Maisa. Rav Ashi Omer Arba Rashi Hashanim Haim. Another explanation is why does it say 4? This is how you're supposed to read it. There's 4 Rosh Hashanas Shehain Ba'arba Rashi Chadashim that take place within the 4 months. The Echa B'Shvat K'Bei Shammai on the 1st of Shvat, and it's like the Shita of Beis Shammai. Hakikamer Rosh Hashanah Haim. Shehain Ba'arba Rashi Chadashim. The Echa B'Shvat K'Bei Shammai. Hakikamer Shloishik L'Dimir Koil. The Echa B'Shvat Machlokas Beis Shammai Ubeis Hillel.